Oh, hello, can we please talk about UFC Fight Night 204, or as it's better known, UFC London 2022, headlined by Volkov and Tom Aspinall, as long as Volkov gets... I think Volkov's already in the country. I think it's actually like a done deal at this point. But either way, it should be a really good night of fights. Really good for us UK fans because it's on at a regular time, which I absolutely love. And yeah, so I'm going to be spending the next kind of 10-15 minutes or so basically breaking down a few of the fights that stand out for me on the card and placing some terrible bets, and then we're going to see how they pan out later on in the week. And yeah, it's something that I like to call a bit of an MMA scratch card. It's I put a quid on each leg, and then a quid on the accumulator, the multiple, and then, yeah, you know, it's 1,000 to 1. It's 1,000 to 1 for a reason, because they're fucking terrible bets, guys. But it's like having a scratch card, except you get to watch people punch each other in the face for money whilst you watch it pan out. And yeah, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So yeah, let's crack on with the picks. For the Burt Locker, fights in 15 for UFC Fight Night 204. So I'm going to start off with the bantamweights. Jack Shaw, this Welsh guy, he's a real phenom. He's an underdog in this fight as well. So I think you're getting really good value on Jack Shaw, because Jack Shaw is an absolute killer. Now the reason he is an underdog, don't get me wrong, there is a reason he's an underdog, because the guy he's fighting, Timur Valiev, is on Team Dagestan. He's one of those Dagestani wrestler fucks that are very, very difficult to beat. He has been beaten before. He's not unbeaten. And Trevin Jones did beat Timur, but it went down as a no contest because it got turned over because Trevin Jones tested positive for marijuana. It's like, come on, that's a loss. That's an L. You know what I mean? I'm telling you. Oh, an L. I don't know. Either way, L. So yeah, look. So at the end of the day, look, I do like Jack Shaw in this one because he's an underdog, and and when you start seeing how good this kid is, I don't think you're going to be getting him as an underdog for much longer. I don't think that, look, just because he is from Team Dagestan, don't get me wrong, the whole Team Dagestan thing, it's a scary prospect. It is. Those guys, they're absolute murderers, and that is the reason that Jack Shaw is coming in as an underdog here. But like, these guys, they're not unstoppable. Eventually, like, people are going to figure out a style to beat that style. It happens. It's the cycle of MMA. It's how the sport evolves. And Jack Shaw, he's a prodigy. He really is. He is so good in just every single area. I have not seen him have a bad fight yet. He is ridiculously talented. And he's a finisher as well. 12 of his 15 wins by stoppage. I need to note also, Jack Shaw has yet to be beaten. He's the unbeaten one going in here. Do you know what I mean? No one's even come close to beating him. And he is a finisher. Like I said, 12 of 15 wins by stoppage. And for that reason, I like the double chance. The double chance for Jack Shaw, to get the finish, submission or TKO. You're getting 3.75 on that. That's a terrible bet, but it's actually not a bad one. I've done way worse than that, guys. I've seen way stranger things happen than Jack Shaw getting a goddamn finish. You believe that? You're getting like 3.75. So like what, 2.5 to 1, nearly 3 to 1 on Jack Shaw to get the finish. Considering how good Jack Shaw is, that's going on the bet slip. Yeah, watch this go to a decision now. It's bound to happen, isn't it? So yeah, then you've got Nikita Krylov against Paul Craig in the 205-pound light heavyweight division. Now, Paul Craig, he's coming in as an underdog again. Right? What does he have to do to get the bookies' respect at this point? Like, how many people does he have to absolutely murder on the ground before Paul Craig gets some goddamn respect from those bookmakers? You bookmakers make me sick. No, you don't. You don't make me sick, because I like Paul Craig in this fight. Don't get me wrong, Krylov is no joke. 26-8. He's dropped a few by submission, which could be a problem when you're fighting Paul Craig, because Paul Craig is a submission beast. He's just an absolute animal when it goes to the ground. He's so technical and so good, but also just brutal. He will pull your arm off. Like, he'll take it with him. He has no problems doing that. And look, Krylov, he lost to Ankalaev, no shame in that. He lost to Teixeira, Yan, Serkinov by submission. What I'm getting at here is that, look, Krylov is by no means unbeatable. I don't really think he should be coming in as a favourite here, because Craig, he's got a slightly better record, and Paul Craig, he's got some of the most brutal grappling I have ever seen. He even beat Magomed Ankalaev. Don't forget that. Don't forget, Paul Craig beat Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev was winning that whole fight, but then Paul Craig, literally at 4:59 in the final round of the fight, manages to get a triangle and manages to get the submission. That's how good his grappling is. And his grappling means that he is never out of a fight. So, for me, the fact that Paul Craig is +5, 4-1 against to get the submission is a goddamn farce. Like, there's other fighters on the card where they're approaching kind of like, Gunnar Nelson is less than even money to get the submission. Like, I'm not saying it should be less than even money, but it shouldn't be 4-1 for Paul Craig to do what Paul Craig basically always does, more often than not. So yeah, for me, +5 on the submission, Paul Craig. That is an absolute bargain. There is so much value in that bet right there. These bets are all terrible, and I always say that, but there is at least a fuck ton of value in that bet. You should not be getting those odds on Paul Craig to do what Paul Craig specialises in a fight that Paul Craig should win. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, Craig's on a tear, man. He's tearing through people. +5 submission. That's going on the bet slip. And I'm just going to do a little shout out to Meatball Molly McCann. Like, I'm going to enjoy watching her fight. I'm not going to put a bet on that one. And also Gunny. I haven't seen Gunny Nelson in quite some time. I just mentioned him in that last breakdown with Paul Craig. The fact that he's less than even money to get the submission, and that is why I'm not betting on that fight, because I wanted to take Gunny by submission, and there is just no point in betting on that because the odds are too goddamn short, and you know how I feel about short odds. Pointless. Keep the stakes low, keep those odds long, keep those bets terrible. That is my motto. I live by that shit. So yeah, let's move on to one of the marquee fights that everyone's going to be looking forward to. Mr. Paddy the Baddie, Patrick Pimblett, is going to be taking on Rodrigo Vargas, 155 pounds. Now, we all know Paddy, right? 17-3. He's a huge deal in Cage Warriors. Absolute submission wizard. He was a long-time featherweight and lightweight champion in Cage Warriors, and he's got the personality. He likes to get the finish. He's got it all. Honestly, the fact that Paddy Pimblett, he's grown into his frame as well. He's got a really good frame for that lightweight division. And one thing that we didn't see from him in his last fight, he basically kind of like stood with the guy. And yeah, okay, there were some problems with his stand-up, but you've got to remember that Paddy Pimblett is not a striker, not really. He is a grappler. He's a grappler who can strike, who can knock you out if he's feeling it. But I think we're going to see what Paddy is really good at in this fight. I think that, honestly, it's probably going to go to the ground. Vargas, right, I don't think he's the guy to derail like the Paddy Pimblett hype train. Now, watch me play this back next week after he knocks Paddy out or something. But I'm just saying, look, Vargas is 16-4. No, he's had a patchy record in the UFC. Like, at 36, I don't think that Vargas is necessarily getting better, right? I think Paddy will be too much for him here. He's got the height, he's got the reach, and I just think that he's not going to try and box with Vargas. I don't think he's going to do it. I think that Paddy is going to try and showcase what Paddy Pimblett is really good at, what really brought him to the dance. And what really brought him to the dance in terms of MMA is the grappling, is the submissions. And the bookies agree with me completely, because you are only getting +3 on the submission for Paddy Pimblett, 2-1. Wow. But that's going on the bet slip, because I just feel like that it's just good enough. 2-1, like double your money on a Paddy Pimblett submission at any time. I think that is a good one to go for, because I just don't think that Vargas is going to have enough for him. I could be wrong here, but I just think that we're going to see, again, what really brought Paddy Pimblett to the dance. And yeah, so Paddy Pimblett submission going on the bet slip. Then you've got Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker at 145 pounds. Dan Hooker is cutting down to 145 now, because he's had a bit of a rough run at featherweight. Now, weirdly, right, Arnold Allen is good. He's very, very good. 18-1, right? But like he usually gets like a decision. He's usually dominant, if unspectacular. I think that's fair to say. But I do like Arnold Allen. I've got a lot of time for him. I do not think he should be the favourite in this fight, and he is. And the reason that he's the favourite going into this is not because he's necessarily lighting the world on fire himself. It's because Dan Hooker has only won 1 in his last 4. But look at who Dan Hooker has fought, right? He has fought Dustin Poirier, Chandler, Haqparast, which he won, by the way. Haqparast is the only name in there that's not like on the elite level. And then he lost to Makhachev on short notice. There's no real shame in that. Look, so when you look at his recent record, yeah, Dan Hooker, it's like, yeah, you think he can't buy a win right now. But actually, when you look at it, when it outside of Poirier and Chandler, and let's be honest, like Makhachev is just on short notice. What else was going to happen in that fight, right? And you put him against somebody who is better than good, right, but not quite at the elite level, which I think would be fair to say of Haqparast. If you put him against one of those guys, Dan Hooker really shines. He really shines, and he'll get the job done. With no disrespect intended to Arnold Allen, I put him much closer to Haqparast in terms of where he is as a fighter than putting him in the bracket of Poirier, Chandler or Makhachev, right? So with that being said, when you look at it, Hooker's got a really good chance here. He just does. Now, normally I just like to bet on my countrymen. I really do. Like, I'm a big fan of Arnold Allen. I don't want to get that twisted. And obviously Arnold Allen can win this fight. Like, obviously he can. But what I'm saying is, as an underdog, I'm leaning on Hooker here because I just think that Dan Hooker is far better than his record suggests. And actually, I quite like the submission as well because Dan Hooker, he does, especially not so much lately. He's did it earlier on in his career, admittedly. That's why the odds are so long. But you're getting a submission straight sub at 12s here, But the problem is he also likes to bang lately. He just, he's like that Julian Lane. Let me bang, bro. Yeah, he likes to have a scrap. That's what I like about Dan Hooker. He likes a good scrap. He's just a fighter. He's a real kind of scrappy fighter, and that's why he sometimes gets those losses because he's willing to stay in firefights. But that's also why people love to watch him fight, myself included. So that being said, I think that I like the submission. 12 on the submission, 11-1 on the submission. Incredible value there. But for me, there's also too much chance that Dan Hooker is going to be happy to play it out on the feet and to just, throw his gauntlet down and just bite down the mouthpiece and just slug it out with this dude. And I think if that happens, honestly, Dan Hooker has as good a chance as coming out on top as Arnold Allen does. And that is why I'm taking the double chance here. Submission or knockout for Dan Hooker is +3. That's 2-1 in English. That is a terrible bet. That's going on the bet slip. And then we've got the main event of the evening, Volkov versus Aspinall, 265 pounds. Honestly, I think that Aspinall is the UK's best chance. I think he's the UK's next champion. I honestly do. The sky is the limit for this kid. And I like how he's approached his career as well. He didn't really call out like the big names because he was like, no, I want to keep going step by step by step by step. But after he submitted Orlovsky in the second round and then smashed Sergey Spivak. Spivak is good as well. We saw that. You put somebody who isn't quite there against Sergey Spivak and he will batter them. We saw that when he fought Greg Hardy the other week, right? Aspinall went through Spivak like a hot knife through butter. And that is impressive. That's really impressive. And Tom Aspinall, he's kind of strong in every area. He has no weaknesses. He often plays out on the feet and likes to kind of strike with people. But actually, he's been doing jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu with his dad since he was a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think his dad runs like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. And I believe, I might be wrong here, so correct me if I am, but I believe that he started out, Aspinall jiu-jitsu, and that's how he got into like MMA and everything. So he knows grappling. He's very, very good. He's extremely good. And for that reason, I think that we might see a submission here because I don't think that, because this is a rare instance for Aspinall in that he is at a size disadvantage to Volkov. Volkov is a big cat, man. He is gigantic. He's nearly 7 feet tall. He's ridiculous. His reach is ridiculous. He's just a giant Russian kickboxer who's hard as nails, basically, Volkov. Now, this is a step up in competition for Aspinall. Make no mistake about it. He keeps moving up. There are no easy fights. When you go through people like he's been going through people, unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. There are no easy fights from here on in for Tom Aspinall. This is going to be a test, but I think it's a test he can pass. But I think we're going to see a slightly different Tom Aspinall here, because I don't think his best route to victory, with respect, is to stand and kickbox with somebody whose striking is as good as Volkov. When we saw him against Alistair Overeem, that's a scary thing, because Alistair Overeem is one of the best kickboxers in the world, one of the most accomplished kickboxers in the world, and to watch Volkov, and Volkov showed that, look, when you just stand in my range, I am going to beat the fuck out of you. And that is what he did. If Tom Aspinall stands in Volkov's range, Volkov's going to beat the fuck out of him, because Volkov will beat the fuck out of anybody if they stand in his range. But I mean, Aspinall is quick. Aspinall maybe can hang with him on the feet, but I don't think that is the path of least resistance. I think the path of least resistance is to create a scramble, create an opportunity to get the fight to the floor, and then we're going to see him grab an arm or even a leg, maybe even go for a heel hook, baby. But either way, what I like is that the bookies seem to be really overlooking Aspinall's submission abilities here, because they are giving out 10-1 on the submission for big Tom Aspinall. And that is an absolute steal. I am all over that, because honestly, I just feel like, actually, the best route to victory against a 7-foot-tall kickboxer is probably not standing and trading with him. I just feel like Tom Aspinall, he's a smart fighter. He is. He's got a very good fight IQ. And I think that he's going to spot that, look, the path of least resistance here, if I can get this down to the floor, he's going to have a huge advantage over Volkov. And I think that if he gets it down to the floor, I think the submission will come relatively easily. 10-1, man. Whew, that's tasty. Lovely. Bang that on the bet slip. And then obviously I like to, because the bets aren't terrible enough on their own, I like to put them all together onto an accumulator. So you have got the double chance on Jack Shaw, the submission or the TKO or the KO. And then you've got Paul Craig by submission. And then you have got Paddy Pimblett to get the submission. The submission just for Paddy Pimblett. And then for Dan Hooker to double chance, submission, knockout, TKO, and then you've got Aspinall to get the submission. Putting all those together on one bet slip, £1,856.25-1. That is terrible as you like. That is awful. But it's an MMA scratch card. My MMA scratch card, and I'm going to be checking it, like, it'll probably be off by the first fight of the card, but I don't give a fuck. I'm going to enjoy the fights. The fights are on at a normal time, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of them. It'll be really fun to see if we can see the emergence of Tom Aspinall as a real, bona fide, kind of heavyweight contender. And I can't wait to see it. So I'll be recapping these bets Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.